Bishop and Nathan Zagura.
All right, let's do it live on a Monday edition of the program. Quite frankly, a tone neither of us nor any of you thought that we would have.
No.
13-point leads with 2 minutes to go in the opposition having no timeouts. Those are good. In fact, 2,229 straight times they were good. It wasn't yesterday. There's about a million things and a bunch of layers to how it all unraveled and went wrong. The end result is it did. And you sit here as a one-on-one football team saying, my God, how are we not 2-0?
Because we should be 2-0. And what happened yesterday, as you mentioned, the first time it's happened in, 2 decades in the NFL?
Yeah.
That somebody has blown a lead of this magnitude. And unfortunately for the Browns, you had a chance to be 2-0, a chance to be one game ahead of everybody in the AFC North, 2 games ahead of the Cincinnati Bengals, the defending AFC North champions. And you let it get away. And head coach Kevin Stefanski is going to talk with the media about it right now.
Jadeveon Clowney has an ankle injury. He'll be out this week due to that injury. Chase Winovich has a hamstring injury. He'll be out. And then Jesse James has a bicep injury. He will be out. Obviously that's a tough pill to swallow yesterday with that game. The frustration is very, very real when you have a game that you feel like you can close out and we didn't. So that's the frustration and that's the disappointment. Having said that, we got a game Thursday night. We got a game in our building versus a division opponent. So we got to very, very quickly turn the page, make corrections, and move on because on these short weeks, you just can't let the previous game linger. You really do have to move on. So that's what we'll do. We'll meet with the team this afternoon. We'll have a walkthrough this afternoon, and then we are full bore on to Pittsburgh. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you very much, Coach. The first one will be from Mary Kay Cabot.
Yeah, Kevin, let's can we start with the Nick Chubb situation where he should have gone, out or whatever instead of scoring the last touchdown? I mean, can you kind of elaborate? I know what you said after the game, but should you have told him and told the huddle, do not score there?
Yeah, obviously, retrospect, Mary Kay, you want to do anything that can secure the win. So that is something that's my responsibility to communicate to that huddle. Putting yourself up potentially 14 points inside of 2 minutes, you should close out that game. So yes, I wish I had said that to Nick and Nick would have done it. But it doesn't change the fact that we had plenty of opportunities to win that game.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Kay. Next up is Jake Trotter.
Yeah, Kevin, after watching film, do you have any more detail on what happened on the 66-yard touchdown which ignited their rally?
Yeah, as you can imagine, Jake, obviously looked at it, talked with the coaches about it. We'll talk to the players about it. I'm not going to get into the responsibilities and those type of things because I don't see that as productive. Bottom line is that should never happen. We have to be able to defend the pass in those obvious passing situations. And we just got to everybody be on the same page. And it's frustrating that we weren't in that case. And I know it happened previous in week 1 as well. So those are the type of things we have to get fixed immediately because that's just when you're in a game like that, everybody knows what they're about to do. It was not a surprise to anybody. So that's the only way we could have let them back in that game. So again, it just goes back to have to correct the correctables.
Evan, this is a small sample size. Through 2 games, Miles is number 1 in the NFL in the second and third quarters in pass rush win rate. I know that's one of many metrics to evaluate that. In the fourth quarter, he is way down compared to those quarters, even though he's still, among the leaders in the NFL. Do you see him getting worn down at all late in games? Or have you seen no drop off and that's just a statistical anomaly from 2 games?
Yeah, I would probably say it's small sample size, Jake. He's playing at a high level. We're going to continue to need him to play at a high level.
Thank you, Jake. Cam Justice, you're up.
Hey, Kevin, you guys said that you don't practice mistakes. You obviously want to learn from them, but you're not going to go out there and necessarily practice them. When those breakdowns do happen, though, in communication on the defense in games like yesterday, and you have those blown coverages, how do you go about preparing that for the next week, making sure you're able to prevent them in a game setting, but also addressing them in a practice setting?
Yeah, Cam. So what we have done is, you practice substitutions in practice. You There are ways to not let the defense or offense know which group is going in next, so you make them lock in on those type of things. We practice in the crowd noise defensively, knowing that we're going to have to be using signals. So you do practice those type of things, and that's really your operation. And those are the type of things that you got to continue to be really, really sharp, because it does present challenges to the defense when you're at home. And our crowd was great yesterday, and that's what we expect. So you got to be able to communicate in the crowd noise, just like when the offense goes on the road, to be able to communicate.
And when you're doing that with players, is there also an emphasis on communication with the coaching staff on the sidelines of getting those plays out there to them on the field?
Definitely. And that's, we talk a lot about operation. It's really the communication from the booth, from the coach's booth down to the sideline, from the sideline to the huddle. The communication is vital on the sideline in between series. I mean, all of that is so important to your operation.
Thanks, Cam. Let's go to Matt Fontana.
Yeah, Kevin, you just mentioned it's not very constructive to go through the responsibilities. It is all frustrating when people are firing off who to blame, or it's this or that, when they don't even know the play call.
Yeah, I would just tell you, Matt, respectfully, we deal with what we can control, and that's really in this building.
And then your entire coaching career, was that the most frustrating loss you've been a part of?
Yeah, I mean, they all sting. It's not fun, So we're, it's a challenge in this in this business. You know where you stand. It's the beauty of this business. It's very black and white. It's win and loss, but they're hard. They're hard. They hurt, and I think it's just so important because of that. You got to real fast turn the page. Doesn't mean you don't own it. Doesn't mean you don't make corrections, but you better turn the page.
Thank you, Matt. Daryl Ryder, you're up.
Yeah, Kevin, after the Carolina game, we heard we'll make the corrections, get it fixed, and that'll be that. And then, so I guess just how frustrating is that you had a repeat of what happened in week one, and this time it did cost you. And then the second part of that, what is the fix for the communication breakdown?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Daryl, it is frustrating. I mean, I don't think anybody who watches that game doesn't understand the frustration. Having said that, we have to be problem solvers. We have to find solutions, and any which way. There's a bunch of different ways you can do it, but we got to find solutions so that when we're in position like we were yesterday, and it's an obvious passing situation, we can't let that happen.
And without getting into any specific public blaming of any particular player, from your perspective, or Joe Woods is the defensive coordinator, could you see you guys altering lineups and whatnot for repeat mistakes when it comes to communication breakdown on the field?
Well, I mean, with anything, offense, defense, special teams, of course, you're always looking for the right lineup out there that gives you the best chance. But, let me be very clear. Anything that happens out there, I got to get fixed. That's on me.
Thanks, Daryl. John Sable, you're up.
Coach, is it kind of a blessing in disguise seeing how you have a game in just a few days? It's a short week, so this isn't something that is just hanging over your head as opposed to having a game on Sunday or even maybe on Monday. And then a second follow-up to that is, how confident are you in a short amount of time that these errors can be fixed?
Well, John, yes, I do think it's good that we have a game Thursday. I think back to 2020, had a very tough loss in that first game, and then right back at it at home versus a division opponent. So I do think it's beneficial to just get out on the field today, get out on the field tomorrow, and then obviously get under the lights Thursday night. And then, like we mentioned earlier, anything that we need to fix, we got to fix. We don't have time to wait.
Thanks, John. Let's go to Ashley Bastock.
Hey, Kevin, going to the special teams aspect of things from yesterday, I guess the fake punt opportunity that they got through, the missed opportunity to recover that kick. Just what have your conversations been like with Mike after rewatching that and things like that, cleaning that stuff up?
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about, I think last night, Ashley, we got beat, and they did a nice job. They executed on a fake punt. They executed on an onside kick. There are things, of course, that we can do better, and we're just going to have to. We just have to find a way in those situations to make a play, find a way to get the ball out of bounds on a kick and those type of things. So it's normal football where they're going to make their fair share of plays, but we got to just continue to put our guys in position to do their job, to put them in position to do the job, and then have our players come through in those moments.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ashley. Marla Ridenour, go ahead.
Yeah, Kevin, I'm not asking about this specific person exactly, but Denzel tweeted that, I was only targeted once and, I'm just wondering, are you worried about players like pointing fingers or second guessing Joe Woods' calls, or just where things stand as far as the team, as a whole right now?
Yeah, Marla, I haven't obviously talked to the team after the game. I haven't had a chance to talk to the team yet today, bringing them in shortly for meetings. So obviously those are all things you address, and what you have to do when you win as a team, and when you lose as a team. That's what makes this the greatest team sport there is. It takes all 11 on offense, defense, and special teams, and at the end of the day, you got to share in the wins and you got to share in the losses.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marla. Let's go to Jeff Shadell.
Hey, Kevin, you didn't mention Jacoby Brissett in your injury report. How is he? How's his ankle? And could you go over the way he played yesterday and an interception? What happened there?
Yeah, so he's not on the injury report. I thought he played well. I thought he saw it clearly. On the interception, their guy made a play. We're trying to get a chunk there and call timeout, but their guy made a play.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll take two more, Scott Petrick and Tony Grossi. Scott?
Hey, Kevin, I had a couple of quick follow-ups. So had you told Jacoby to have the running backs not score before that happened?
That's what we've done in the past, yes.
I mean, but yesterday, did you tell him before that snap or anything in the headset?
No, I did not. So I do want to be clear on this one. I absolutely could have told him that in that situation.
Okay. And then on the 66-yarder, were you comfortable with the play call? I'm not saying, who should have been there, but you liked the call that was out there?
Yes.
Okay. And then, thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Last one, Tony Grossi.
Thanks, Kevin. One on offense, one on defense. I know it's painful. That defensive, that long pass play. At this point, I've seen coordinators just put a safety 20 yards deep to avoid that situation. Isn't that a logical temporary solution to get until these communications are settled?
Yeah, I think there are definitely solutions, Tony, to that problem. And we've talked about it as a staff. We'll put our guys in position to not let that happen again.
On the last, the interception, it looked like it was deeper than get me to the 40. The pass was intercepted at the 35. Too deep?
No, I don't think so. That it was into the dog pound. So wanted to. I don't think it's safe to just always get to the 40 with your kicker. I think we're trying to get as close as we can to that to kick a shorter field goal.
All right, Tony, thank you. Coach, appreciate the time today.
You're hot.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there's Kevin Stefanski with his Monday press conference, one that had a very specific tone to it, a lot to break down, and we will do so coming up next. Z is here. The Hoff is here. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. consecutively. There was a 99.9% chance of victory once the Nick Chubb touchdown happens. The 0.1% is what we're talking about today, my friend. You were there, by the way. An incredible day for you. Congratulations. I know
Thank you.
the
Officially a
legends
legend.
The Browns
It was
jacket
all
was
it
gorgeous.
was all speculation before.
I like it.
You're sitting. You're in the stands. The day is pure joy, and it comes apart in 2 minutes.
That's why we're left feeling like we're feeling right now with this pit in our stomach
Yeah.
and just this pit of misery that I've stepped into this entire day. But I had a friend that just came up right at the end of the game, right before the 2-minute warning, and we were breaking some bread in the suite yesterday, and we're talking about, this was a really enjoyable game to watch. Like Jacoby Brissett came to life. This offense looked efficient. They were smooth. They were on everything, all the game plans that they had going in. It looked like they executed very well. Defense had played well up until that point. And you just were like, this was a good game. Like, even the Jets, from their standpoint, it wasn't sloppy football. I thought they had a really nice opening script. Mike LaFleur, their offensive coordinator, I thought he did a good job, like, trying to limit Miles with the number of guys they just threw at Miles to kind of slow him off the line of scrimmage. So it was a good game. It was clean. It was back and forth. You're sitting there feeling really good about possibly having a 2-score lead or just being able to kneel it out when you get under 2 minutes because your opponent had no timeouts. And then to watch it all unravel in under a 2-minute stretch. It happened so quickly, especially because the Jets had no timeouts. The Browns only had one. It happened so fast you couldn't even comprehend what was happening because your emotions were already in a certain lane of traffic. You're already on the on-ramp to joy.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, you didn't have enough time for your brain to U-turn in under 2 minutes the way it just collapsed at the end.
It was shocking.
Yeah,
and it was
that's the
unacceptable.
right word.
I mean, it's unacceptable to blow a coverage in that situation where, again, all you had to do was anything but that. Just don't allow a one-play touchdown. That was really all they had to do. Not allow a one-play touchdown, and the Browns win the game. Then you just have to recover an onside kick, and the Browns win the game. Then you just got to get one more stop, and the Browns win the game. And they couldn't do any of those things. And it was insane to watch. It was shocking. I was stunned. I went through multiple stages of grief. I went from shocked to angry, back to shocked, back to angry, and then I think I'm still shocked as I sit here today because it was almost impossible. And I have to say almost because I would have said it was impossible, but clearly it is not. And the Browns have got to figure this out. If I had told you guys that the Browns were going to open the season against Carolina and the Jets and that they would score 26 and 30 points in those games, there's no way
2-0
that we're anything but 2-0. And then crazy thing is we're a 58-yard field goal away from being 0-2 because of defensive blunders that keep happening. People are getting mad at the coaches, and I understand you want to blame somebody. But if we're a football team that's smart, tough, and accountable, which is the last word, I know nobody wants to talk about it, but at some point, like, you're getting paid millions of dollars to play this game. You've got to do your job. And right now, those players are not. Joe Woods doesn't design coverages that involve not covering people. Like, that's not what was called in. That's not what's supposed to be done. And people are all after Joe Woods. Now, you could say, I'd love to see him play man in that situation. Everybody out there who plays Madden is nodding. Yep, play 3-man, and you can't lose the game right there. I don't know if that's a real coverage. It works in a video game. It feels like it would work if you had 3 deep safeties and everybody else playing man. It feels Joe Flacco's not going to run on you. You know what I mean? Like, just it's.
There's no coverage that doesn't work in that situation if you run it as it's supposed to be executed. Like, even if you were in, you were blitzing and you had man coverage in the back end, like, they're still supposed to cover the guys and understand that the situation calls for deeper than the deepest. The only way you lose this game is if the ball goes over your head. So if there's any miscommunication at all, let's just everybody back up. Right?
Err on the side
you
of
always err on the side of caution in that situation. And I understand that you don't want to just play straight prevent where everyone turns and runs backwards so that they can just throw 30-yard underneath routes and get out of bounds. But at the same time, if there's a motion that happens and there's communication that needs to exist on the field and maybe you don't get it or maybe you weren't exactly sure with what you were supposed to do, you have to err on the side of caution as a left tackle. If I wasn't exactly sure that I should slide to the right and leave the defensive end for maybe a halfback or a halfback and a tight end that are going to block off the edge, well, you know what? I'm going to block that guy if I'm not absolutely sure, because you cannot make the mistakes that lead to tragic outcomes. And when we were talking in the pregame show on Browns Countdown, my Vitamix winning key for the day was to be deeper than the deepest and don't allow any deep throws over your head because of exactly this situation when you're playing against a team that you should beat. The only way that they beat you is with explosive plays that become catastrophic, which is exactly what happened on Sunday. And unfortunately, like 6 of them happened back to back to back in under 2 minutes.
I coach 6 and 7-year-olds. In the last minute of a game, if we're ahead, what's the first thing I say to them? Nobody behind you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Nobody behind you. It's the only way we lose. Come up, pull flags.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So that is taught at that age, and for some reason it's happened to us in back-to-back games. Guys, we have talked about the needle that was going to needed to be threaded here, right? As you wait for Deshaun Watson, the defense had to be great. The special teams had to be great. And we thought the offense would just have to do enough. Remember? Layups be layups.
Yep.
Win some games 22-18, that type of stuff. The offense has been exceptional. This was an extraordinary performance out of our offense.
It was great.
On Sunday. The amount of things that had to go wrong. A missed extra point from a guy who hit a 58-yarder.
Yep.
I mean, from a special team standpoint, they got a fake punt off on us that they got. That can't happen. We talked about the broken coverage a lot. That's a big one. Very clearly, if you watch the All-22, very clearly everyone's in cover 3 with the exception of Denzel. Now, how that communication doesn't get to him, you don't know. They got to sort that out. But when JOK goes to the flat, that tells you,
yes,
you're gone.
You should watch the other guys in coverage.
Right,
They're all
playing that. All right. So you have, and then back to special teams. So you have a fake punt. You have a missed extra point from a guy who had a 58 walk-off the week before. I've never seen him push a kick. Have you? I've seen him kick 1,000 times. I've never seen him push a kick.
I have never seen him miss inside of 55 yards. Ever.
Yeah, ever. Surrendered an onside kick, which, by the way, even with the blown coverage, you recover the onside kick, you win. Now, I don't know what it looked like in the stadium, but from television, it looked like we had one guy trying to recover it, and they had like 4. So I don't know if that's what the film showed or what it looked, but sometimes on TV it's too tight, so you can't see what happened.
So what you had, it was 3 guys over there, and then Amari was like a yard behind them. Those 3 are supposed to block, and then he's supposed to get the ball. And it was coming sideways and coming on, and it looked like he tried with his left arm to hit it out of bounds and got hit right as that happened, and then they were getting it. Now, we had John Johnson in the middle of the field over the kicker so that he couldn't do the kick and run, 10 yards. But then we also had Demetric Felton back deep, and we had Anthony Schwartz at about the 20, 25, like kind of deep.
Yeah.
So we could have had 2 more guys up there. And I guess you're worried, okay, well, what if they kick it over our heads and beat us in a foot race? But, I mean,
seems tough.
That feels a lot harder.
There's no high probability onside kick. That's why it's such an improbable collapse, because no matter what they did from an onside kick standpoint, it's going to be really difficult to recover it. No matter where you line up, even if they kick it to empty space and you had a couple extra guys up and then you try to beat them down there in a foot race, you should win that easily because you have at least a 10 to 15-yard head start, even if all of your guys are towards that line of scrimmage where, they're within 10 yards of where the football is. So I think they were set up well, and the punter actually was the guy that kicked the onside for the Jets. He made an excellent helicopter kick that you couldn't tell if it was going to go 10 yards and if you should stay away, or if it was going to go 10 yards and you should try to knock it out of bounds. And just like a little split second pause by Amari, I think causes him to be just a split second late to be able to try to knock that football out of bounds. Because that's all you have to do in that situation. You get the ball, you can kneel on it a few times, and the game's over.
All right, so make an extra point, you win. Don't blow a coverage on a 66-yarder, you win. Recover an onside kick, you win. How about stop them with 53 seconds? I mean, it wasn't even that they went and scored in 53, and I don't know what it felt like for you guys in the stadium, but as soon as they recovered the onside, you're done. That's what I felt like.
I thought, too, it was a hot day, which in September in Cleveland, you don't always get hot days, but it was pretty hot. And for the defense in that situation, the hardest thing is you're in 2 minute, which is the most exhausting thing that you do. And as soon as the other team recovers an onside, you have to go back out there without any rest. So you're already tired going into that situation. Your pass rush is going to be a lot slower. Your defensive backs are getting more fatigued because they're out there the whole time. Meanwhile, the other team is rotating their receivers in there. And so your back is already against the wall, and now you're exhausted. and you're demoralized because of the situation and the momentum going into that situation from the beginning.
It was like pitch and catch, though. Even the last, even with all, just pointing all of the things. And
Yeah,
if any
it's
one of these
stupefying.
things are done, if you do any one of these improbable things, you stop any one of these improbable things, you win. You stop none of them. So they score in no time, right down the field. Garrett Wilson goes right behind the coverage. It's the easiest throw Flacco can make. That's a touchdown. They make their extra point. Now they're up 1. Despite all of that, Jacoby Brissett scrambles and gets us Degner to midfield. We had a timeout with 12 seconds, and the only thing you can't do is throw a pick.
Mm-hmm.
If you round midfield, you're going to get a shot at a 65-yarder, and we've seen him kick them from there. At least you have a shot in hell, and we throw a pick. Look at all those things. Now, I know people want to come at Nick Chubb. I've seen that a lot. I can't.
Come on.
You go up 2 scores with under 2 minutes, I'm sorry. That's enough.
2,000?
2 touchdowns.
What did you say, 2,000?
2,229 straight
Yes.
games.
It's over.
It's over. Yeah.
It's over.
I wanted to go through all of the things, every one of them so improbable, and they all happened. If you just stop one of them, you win. One.
Yeah. And you did not. And that's
There's
why
6
this
of 'em.
one hurts. And this is one that I hope we don't have to look back on as being, if we end up a game short of winning the division, a game short of going to the playoffs, that we don't have to look back at this game because you snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. I mean, you had won this football game. You deserved to win it. Your offense had played great. And I think that, you mentioned special teams. We got beaten in 2 of the 3 phases. Ultimately, special teams was not a net positive for us. Clearly, it was a big negative. And then defensively, we had an opportunity at the end of the first half to hold them to a field goal.
Yeah.
You give up a touchdown on 3rd and 10 from the 10 when you rush 3 and drop 8 into coverage and there's an uncovered player. Like, I'm not a mathematician anymore.
You did go to private school, though.
I did.
Yeah.
There are 5 guys on the offensive line who are not eligible to be in routes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a quarterback who's not eligible to be in a route. That leaves 5 people maximum to be in a route. And we had 8 people in coverage. And somehow, one of them was completely uncovered so that he literally threw him a little flare pass, and he walked into the end zone untouched in a 20-yard field.
Mm-hmm.
How does that happen? Like, I know that now you get to go back and look at all the little things that happened. How did we give up so many 3rd downs? They were the worst 3rd down team in the NFL after 1 week.
They were 8 of 15 on 3rd down.
And a lot of them were
long.
3rd and 9s.
Yes. Yeah.
We'd get them 2nd and 15, and they'd end up converting. And that was what you wanted, get them in an obvious passing situation. And yep, we could not get off the field. And that's the thing that I think is so frustrating is if you were to look at our personnel, you say, what is this defense built to do? It is built to just absolutely get after teams in obvious passing situations.
Mm-hmm.
Great pass rushers, great secondary, and it didn't happen. I mean, they had a chance for redemption defensively right there. Make a play. Nobody made a play on that last drive.
Mm-mm.
Not one. Miles, now he got held a couple of times. They didn't call. Well, fine, whatever. But you still had a chance to stop them right there, and you did not. Like, they needed a touchdown. It wasn't like you had to stop them from getting to field goal range. They needed to score.
No.
And they did. Again.
There was no resistance.
None.
That was the easiest bing, bong, bam touchdown. That was the easiest drive could be. It was, it's stupefying. It is. And it's a tough spot because when we look at the big picture here and you think about first 4 games, 3-1 is the number. Now, that's still attainable.
In play, yes.
That's in play. The rest of the division does you a favor. I'm not sure if you guys were at the game. You were calling it. You were there, being honored appropriately. The Ravens were up 28-7 at half.
Yeah.
And lost. They were up 14 in the 4th quarter and lost. Pittsburgh lost at home to the Patriots. The Cincinnati Bengals are the first team in NFL history to play in the Super Bowl and lose their first 2 games the next year on the last play.
I did not hear that yet.
Yeah.
That makes me
2.
slightly more warm and fuzzy this morning than I expected.
It's a little better.
All right, now I'm happy.
I mean, you got to find some stuff here.
Yeah.
But
here's the thing.
That's true.
It's the what could have been.
We could be 2-0.
You
controlling our destiny with an AFC North opponent coming down. Now, the good news is it's on Thursday. And the last time I can remember us having a horrific loss, I want to say it was week 1 of 2018. Now, we got blasted or 2000 of Stefanski's first year, 2000.
We got blasted at Baltimore, and we played
2020,
and we came right back on
Thursday night
against Cincinnati, I think, and won.
Yep.
That you're able to at least flush it and come back. This is different. That one you could say, okay, we got whooped. This one, we were the better football team again, and we are not playing mistake-free. Here's the thing that boggles my mind, going back to these blown coverages. We have given up a 66-yard touchdown, a 75-yard touchdown, and a 50-yard completion down to the one that set up another touchdown on blown coverages where a quarterback in the National Football League had to throw a route on air 3 times in 2 weeks. Like, I'm trying to think in my 10 years with this team where I've seen that happen the reverse, where they just forget to cover one of our guys and we get like walk-in touchdowns.
This isn't NFL open. This is elementary school open. They're open by 15 yards.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're not being covered.
They're not. That's what I mean. There's nobody there.
Yeah.
There's nobody in the screen.
No.
Like they zoom in on the guy catching. It's like, is there anyone? No? Okay.
Like the 3 of us could have scored on that play.
Yeah.
Slow is fast, as the Hoff would like to say. But like that's insane.
Yeah,
if we caught the ball where Corey Davis did, we all could have scored. And that is, how does that happen?
Yeah, he's 15 yards clear.
At least.
It's crazy. So
can't happen.
That's the stuff.
Speechless.
That's the stuff that you have now. Pittsburgh Thursday, and the pressure cooker is a boiling right now, and the heat is hot, and it's the one thing I hate to see, and I know. Look, there's an obligation to speak, but I think at some point, and I'll be the first to admit, I'm on Cold Takes Exposed this morning.
Yeah,
not a good job out of me.
Listen,
by the way, I like how it's Twitter's fault.
You had over 2,200 examples of why this was over.
Why it's done. So this is the tweet I have on the Nick Chubb touchdown. Best thing about being 2-0, see you Thursday, Pittsburgh.
Ooh.
Okay? Now I own it.
So that's a tough one.
As soon as it goes wrong, within 2 minutes, I quote tweet my own tweet, and I said, I'm so sorry, just sick. But that's accountability.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
This team needs to be accountable.
That's
it's smart, tough, accountable. It's on the brochure.
Well, right now we're not being smart either.
No.
Blown coverages are not.
So 2 of the
that's
3.
Not smart football.
2 of the 3 aren't happening. And one big thing from Coach's presser from a newsy standpoint, no Clowney this week.
And by the way, when he went out, our pass rush, it disappeared.
It gone. Vaporized.
Disappeared. All right. We're talking about this accountability stuff. I want to ask you, because you're the only one who's been in an NFL locker room. You are the Hoff. You are a legend officially. What does it not play in a locker room to have honesty about what happened? Would it turn a player off if Kevin Stefanski sat there and said exactly what happened on that play? Why?
You're saying to the media, right?
Yeah.
Because we have no idea what the conversations are in the locker room, in the meeting room.
Sure.
Like you would hope. Yeah. I would almost go as far as guaranteeing that there's some very serious conversations happening in those meeting rooms with Coach Stefanski and Joe Woods and all the people that are involved in that situation. Not in a, hey, you're the reason we lost standpoint, but an accountability standpoint of, hey, guys, these are the things that happened because we let them happen, and that's why we lost. Like, look at this cascade of events. We cannot allow this to happen. Coaches should take some accountability where it is reasonable, but at the same time, the players are the one that are on the field that are executing the game plan that they've been given in a situational mindset and that are, after 2 weeks of the season, showing the same mistake over and over again. And so to your question about should the coaches hold the players more accountable to the media in the public, essentially, is kind of
or
where
even
we're
the
going.
Player come out and say, yeah,
or the player,
I did this. Yeah.
You would think that would be the best way to approach it.
Yeah.
You would think, because then everybody knows, hey, it's not the coach blaming the player, but just explaining what happened. And as a player, then I would probably be a little bit embarrassed if I was the reason that you ended up losing a game that you should have won.
I think one of the most I actually think it's one of the most effective things that you can do if you're in public life and our players are in public life. It actually is pretty endearing if you just say, I blew it.
Yes, it's very relatable.
Everybody makes mistakes.
Yes.
I blew it.
Right.
It's on me. It won't happen again. I'll fix it. And people go, okay. But when you say, no, not me, well, I'm not blaming it, then it doesn't end. It just keeps going in circles.
Well, it led to 1,000 questions about it.
Of course.
Instead of just
and
saying,
it's just done.
I thought we were playing
it.
this coverage. We were actually playing this coverage.
Own it. Done.
Yeah. It is crazy, though, that we have had 3 catastrophic blown coverages. I mean, wouldn't you say that it is atypical to have a guy run that free 3 times in a season?
Well, you just mentioned it. When's the last time you remember the Browns having
the
good fortune of having one of our guys just running scot-free in the secondary where you can hit him and there's nobody within 20 yards? It just doesn't happen, right?
It's like a quarterback receiver warm-up where you just run goes to get loose.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I mean, there's a process in place where you have layers of safety valves. Like, okay, if this guy doesn't get the call, then you still have somebody behind him that can, be the eraser in that situation. You have, veteran safeties that are seeing maybe somebody didn't get the call, so I can make up for it in this case, and I'm going to be deeper than the deepest, and we'll give up the short stuff, but we're not going to give up the play that loses the game for us.
And here's the thing, and it's funny, but when you play a lot of cover 3 and cover 4, what you're saying is we're trying to limit the big plays.
Yeah.
That's what that's what quarters is designed to do. It's what cover 3 is supposed to do. And you have rules. People say, oh, well, they're running cover 3, you can't run all the verts. Well, you have rules. If everybody runs a vertical, they carry those verticals out of the slots. Like, this is
for a few minutes
to be.
All right, thanks, guys. All right,
safe.
Mike Town, I'm again our ESPN NFL front office
That's
insider. It's Bart and Hahn. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. If you're a renter, make sure you're protected. Renters.
All right, guys, look, the Bath Authority gives you that bathroom of your dreams. They can transform your current bathroom situation into a spa-like situation in about a day. Let the Bath Authority make it a reality for you at a fraction of the cost of the competitors. The Bath Authority is our area's premier bath and shower remodeler with expert factory-trained installers. Give them a call now. You get $500 off your next custom bath or shower remodel. Call 216-220-8399 or go to thebathauthority.com. It's where affordability meets quality. Largest selection of bath projects are all made in the United States. Change your bathroom from outdated to outstanding. Acrylic tubs that insulate and keep the heat in. Tub to shower conversions, you need one, they can do it for you. Superior products with expert installers at thebathauthority.com. I like hearing from the principals on this. So we're spending a lot of time on the coverage because that of the mistakes, and there were 6 of them, 6 things that are catastrophic that all went against the Browns. The one that's getting the most attention, certainly by us, because it seems like the one that was the most no-brainer of all of them was the blown coverage and the communications. John Johnson was asked about the communication issues post-game. Here's what he had to say.
We got to find a way to remedy that practice, like literally put it on tape. That's what we got to do. Like we should all be, if it's a hand signal, we should all be making the signal. We should see all 7 guys in the back end making the signal. So there's no way that you can say, oh, I didn't get the call. You know what I'm saying? Like it's sender and receiver.
So that is something I heard Tyvus say on the post-game as we were going to dinner last night for my wife's birthday. And I heard
happy birthday.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, the blonde.
Where'd you guys go?
Mother of Dragons, just the club.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. That he said that one thing that they did in Seattle on that when he was playing in this defense was exactly what John Johnson just said, which was a hand signal. In other words, I give you this, you give it back to me, then we all know we're doing the same thing. Now, I don't know if that's happening or not or whatever, but the fact that he said it out loud gives me some pause that there's some credence to it.
Well, there may be credence to it, but I mean, at the end of the day, you have a procedure in place for what's going on, and
I think we're past that though. Like we have to go rudimentary here.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things where you say if I've got to treat you like right, I got to treat you like a child.
We're in cover 3.
3.
He knows.
It also feels like that makes it pretty easy for the offense to know, too.
Yeah, but I'm sure they're not just going to be like, 1, 2, or 3. I'm sure they can code it a little bit more than that.
Right.
Just
putting
you
up their fingers. Out, though. Like, once they make a hand signal, the guys are watching
I'm not willing to accept that they don't already have hand signals in place. Like, that's what you do on the road when the environment's loud. Like, on defense, or sorry, for the defense, it would be at home, right? So this being a home game, I would expect that they would already have those hand signals built in.
You would think.
I mean, that's what we do on the offensive line when we're playing on the road in really loud environments. Like, I can't talk to my guy that I'm playing next to. I can't talk to the quarterback. He can't talk to me. You have to use hand signals. We used to use hand signals to direct our calls and protection. Like, going left, we'd kind of wave with our left hand. Obviously, going right, wave with your right hand.
Yeah.
Pretty easy, just so you know. Or like, hey, who's our dude? Like, point to your eyes. That's the guy we're going to. And then everybody knows you're on the same page. Like, just simple stuff like that is how you communicate in loud environments. And I'm not willing to accept that they don't have that. That just doesn't make sense that now they're going to have to come up with hand signals because that's what you do. Like, that's part of kind of the install of OTAs is like, hey, these are our coverages. These are the hand signals when it gets loud when we're at home.
Yeah, it's really stupefying, too, from the standpoint of we mentioned that 3 blown coverages, just blown coverages through the first 2 games. When we go back to camp and you looked at this defense and you said, is this as good a back 7 as there is in the league? Is it as good a corner and safety grouping as you've seen in the league?
Yeah.
And talent-wise, it ought to be. And beyond the blowns coverages, it's not happening play to play either with this group. It's not just the blown coverages, but Garrett Wilson put a move on. Now that kid's an elite route runner, and
it's a great route.
It's a great route,
happens,
and that's going to for sure.
Yes.
For sure. But Greg got caught in one of those. Denzel got caught in one on the other side with one of those. You mentioned the play at the end zone where we have nobody covered. It looks like Denzel was confused on that one as well, kind of based on what I've seen. But who knows? But all of this it's not just the blown coverage. It's also in the normal play of game, you just don't see that secondary playing the way that we thought.
So you did in Carolina, I thought. And again, you can't keep taking these things off, but if you look at of the pass yards that were given up, even in this game with Flacco, right?
Yeah.
So he throws 44 passes. So pretend he throws 43 and takes 66 yards off of his total. So he throws 43 times for 240 yards.
Yeah.
So that's under 6 yards an attempt. Like, that's actually really good pass defense.
But if I would have told you that a Jets team with Joe Flacco at quarterback, take out the last one, the 66-yarder, was going to score 24, you would have said that doesn't seem likely based on what our defense we thought our defense would be.
Agreed.
Like we would all say, I think, that to be successful through the first 11 games, if you could score 21-ish,
yes,
that would do it. And so we're doing that offensively. We're not matching that. So it's blown for sure. The blown coverages are 3 of the touchdowns. But it's also just this defense has not been what I think anybody thought it would be through 2 games.
When you give up big plays, that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
That's how you die against bad teams. And the Jets, I'm not saying they're the worst team in the NFL, but they're not a great team right now.
No.
They've got talent, just like every team in the NFL, and they're going to be able to keep it close. But when you're talking about the best teams in the NFL, they're not one of them. That's easy to say. And when you're playing against bad teams, the only way you lose is if you allow huge plays.
Yep.
And if that's on everybody's mind going into the game on defense, that doesn't mean you have to play tentative or you have to always just give up and play deeper than the deepest and give them the shallow stuff. But you need to have the mindset of, we can't allow big plays. That's the number one most important thing we're going to do. And the leader on that defense, whoever it is, whether it's from the linebacker position or the safety position, has to take that ownership of understanding that if there is communication issues that are happening on a play, if there's a problem that's happening, how do I get into something safe so that we don't lose the game on this play? When I was here, when DeQuell Jackson, who I got to see this weekend for the Legends induction, which was great, he was the leader, he was the captain of the defense. And if he was watching and seeing any communication issues that were happening on any given play, if there was a motion and they didn't know how they were supposed to adjust, there's safe calls for them to get into where he can, like when DeQuell was here, he would just kind of pump his hands up in the air, and that just meant to Tampa. That meant, let's get back, let's get into something safe, we'll give them a check down. But what I don't want to have happen is where we get stuck in a situation where we got half the guys in the secondary playing one coverage and the other half playing the other coverage. So I think finding who that ownership person is going to be, whether it be John Johnson, whether it be Anthony Walker, like who's that guy that's going to make sure that everybody is on the same page in that situation.
So I'm watching that play right now. And
the 66-yarder?
Yes.
Yeah.
The running back starts on Flacco's left hip, and when he goes from his left hip and he goes down to the tackle, taps on tackle, letting him know I'm chipping, because that's what they were doing, which I thought was actually pretty interesting. They'd have a back in the backfield. Now, in this case, they didn't go to Miles' side because the tight end was already on Miles' side, but the back would come down if they looked at, like, if there was a guy in a wide 9, and they were going to Miles' side a lot, and then would just come down, tap the tackle, and say, I'm here, I'm going to chip, first thing I'm going to do. And so they were waiting because we were moving Miles around to different places, right side, left side, and so they were doing that. So he goes in motion and comes down to the tackle. When he does that, Anthony Walker, in the middle of the defense, makes 2 hand signals like this and turns around and looks at everybody and does this. And so he's doing it twice, 2 different hand signals like this. And you can see as soon as he does it, everybody's looking at him. That's the thing that's very interesting to me. It appears anyway. You can't tell from this far away. But as soon as he does that, JOK actually hops 2 steps out to his left because he knows he's got the flat now.
Yeah.
So, like, he did make a hand signal.
So you're saying the process is in place. The hand signals are in place.
Maybe
everybody
not
saw it.
Giving them back.
But maybe
we
giving
have to give them back.
But that's...
Did you see this?
The two-way street of communication.
Then you got to do it to me before I can acknowledge you.
If you see this, give it back to me. That way I know you got it.
I know.
Lock, whatever that looks like. But so clearly, like that hierarchy of communication and the route that it has to go through Anthony Walker on any given moment was in place, and there was somebody that didn't get it.
Here's the thing that's even crazier to me about this particular play as I watch it back now. So Denzel, we heard it from his media availability, said that he was playing, the cloud flat. JOK immediately goes out to the flat. It was 2nd and 1.
Mm-hmm.
JOK, when the time that the ball is thrown, the down and distance was it was the 34. Denzel kind of carried Corey Davis all the way to the 50 before he passed him on. And then you had JOK, who was in the flat, who's down at the 40. So, like, even in his vision, he would see that there was a flat defender underneath. You know what I mean? Like, it's right in his line of sight back to Joe Flacco, in fact, as Jeremiah Woods-Cormo 10 yards in front of him. So it's kind of wild that he made the decision to just stop running with him 15 yards down the field.
It makes the only explanation just complete brain fart. Where, like when I was a kid, I remember I was sitting at my dinner table with my parents, and I had my glass of milk. I was like 9. And for whatever reason, I just turned and I dumped it right in my lap. And it was like I blacked out. And I remember my mom looking at me going, Joseph, what are you doing? And I instantly snapped out of it, and I was like, I think I just short-circuited for like 2 seconds. I don't know what happened. And that's my only explanation. Denzel just took the glass of milk and dumped it right in his lap, and then all of a sudden opened his eyes and realized, oh, crap, like everything I saw, everything that was going into my brain just short-circuited for a 3-second, critical 3 seconds in the game. And, I mean, how else do you explain what happened? Everybody's giving the hand signals. Everybody's looking at him. He's seeing JOK in the flat. And then he doesn't run with the deep middle, the deep half.
Here's the crazy thing, too. You could even afford one short circuit. You can't afford 6.
Well, right. That was
so there were 6
so
things
cataclysmic
that had to happen. 6 short circuits lead to that loss.
You hit a 6-team parlay.
Yes.
Every single one of them.
Astronomical.
And all of them were 0.1%.
And you can survive. Honestly, you can survive the blown coverage. One of the other 5 things you do.
And I'll give you another thing that you can add to it, which was a pretty stupefying sequence. We got down to, I want to say, they're 38. And then we had like -3, -4 on runs. We lost, and then a sack.
Yeah.
We lost 15 yards in 3 plays.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot.
Because if he had, even if you don't get a first down there, but you have a chance to kick a field goal there.
Yeah. Everything that could did.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. It's a lot of things to make
unreal.
that happen. OBM, the official printer partner of your Cleveland Browns. While you depend on your Browns to win, you can also depend on OBM because we tackle any size office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. We will go around the league and a short week, which I do think is in our favor. We will get to that as well. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
ESPN Cleveland.
Well, there's a new way to cheer on your Cleveland Browns with the help of your favorite four-legged companion. Barking Backers, presented by Milk-Bone, is the Browns' newest club for pet parents worldwide. Sign up today at barkingbackers.com. Barking Backers, the fan club for dogs. Bo Z and the Hoff with you here. Second hour of the program, Cleveland Browns Daily. I think we probably covered the bad news. The good news, the good news is that because of everything else that happened in the division, I still can't even act like that's good news because you should be atop the division, and so that's the really.
We should be controlling our own destiny.
Correct.
With the chance to be 2 games up on the Steelers and 2 games up on the Bengals.
Yeah, and a full game on Baltimore, who, by the way, collapsed as well.
Yep.
I cannot think of the last time Baltimore at 28-7 at half, with their typical ability to run it, would give up what they gave up, and it came in droves. Tua Tagovailoa threw 6 touchdowns yesterday. Waddle and Tyreek Hill are the first teammates to both have multiple touchdowns, both have 10 receptions, and both have 150-plus yards. That happened. And I saw a lot of stuff this morning about this coming out party for Tua. It certainly was that, but it's a lot on Baltimore, too, the way that happened. Staying in the division. The Bengals, as I mentioned, lose on the last play for the second consecutive week. No team who played in the Super Bowl in NFL history had ever done that before. But beyond that, Burrow was sacked 6 times in this game. So he was sacked 6 times last week. He was sacked 6 times this week. And they're having a tough time unlocking all of that offensive talent. They were supposed to get that offensive line fixed. They didn't. Pittsburgh can't move it. They can't throw the ball down the field. They were chanting for Kenny Pickett. My hunch is that will happen sooner rather than later, not this week, obviously.
If the Browns handle their business, it'll probably come out of this week. Give them an extra 10 days to get ready.
Yeah,
because they're dreadful.
They are. Yeah, they are. So despite everything, you're still in it. And the thing that the straightest line to the postseason, Hoff, is to win the division.
Win your division.
That's it.
3-1 is still in play. So we should be at 2-0, which makes getting to 3-1 easier for these first 4, but it's still in play.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you've got to take care of business, obviously, against the Steelers, which is, again, this is one that is going to sting. Hopefully, much like those blown coverages in Carolina, it won't be costly. But right now it feels large.
Friday morning, if we wake up and we've just beaten the Steelers at home, how are you going to feel, Z?
Glorious.
Pure joy.
Are we going to be back to pure joy? Are we going to be thinking about what happened 2 weeks ago? Probably not at that moment. Certainly later on in the season, you're going to start thinking about it when you're doing the win-loss total and where you're stacking up in the division. But I think it's important for this team to be able to put all of their energy and focus into getting this win and cleaning up the mistakes that are leading you down this path of us going, holy cow, how are we sitting here after losing a game that you clearly outplayed your opponent?
Dominated.
You hope that this can be a big moment in the season where it's a come-to-Jesus moment and that you can get to Friday morning at 2-1 after just beating the Steelers and start going, all right, we can bury that and we can look forward because we're a much better team than we were 2 weeks ago.
Around the AFC, there's a lot of troubling stuff. Really, the AFC is doing us some favors a little bit here. I mean, the Colts, who we all thought would win the AFC South, they are drilled in Jacksonville, 24-0.
That's right.
They have not. They're completely incompetent to start games.
It's
wildly
crazy.
so. And they dropped to 0-1-1. Oddly, they haven't won in Jacksonville since 14.
That's what we were saying. Yeah, on Friday, remember?
Yeah, no, I know.
It's
And we picked them to win. We picked Jacksonville to win, but for whatever reason. But if you are, that is really wild to me that Indy has started the way they've started. I mentioned this fact that the Ravens gave up 28 in the fourth quarter to the Dolphins. That's like
outrageous.
what Ohio State does to Toledo. That doesn't happen in the NFL. And they just had busts. Same thing, just busts. Big picture-wise, like some of this stuff that we're seeing, we're talking about our game with the blown coverages, the Ravens giving up 28. Is there, and I'm just spitballing here, is there anything to a 17-game season and a not knowing really how to handle preseason football in terms of being ready out of the gates? I mean, we think about our secondary. Our secondary didn't participate a lot in camp. That's just the reality.
Newsome didn't.
Denzel
didn't.
No. Like, is it sometimes just, hey, we haven't played enough football?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
It
I don't know.
certainly seems to me that maybe almost 2/3 of the teams in the league are treating the first couple games of the season with a little bit more of a, hey, you know what, we'll take less reps in the preseason, hopefully be able to start the season healthy, and we're okay kind of playing ourselves into midseason form at the beginning of the season rather than when you had those 4 preseason games. It seemed like when teams were playing players more, because there was only 16 games, they put more emphasis on being ready in week 1. And I'm not sure that's necessarily something you're going to hear from any coaches. Oh, yeah, by the way, we're going to work on some things in week 1, and we're okay being a little bit rusty because we don't want to take the risks of playing preseason football. But by the looks of it across the league, with what people are doing as far as not playing their starters in the preseason, you have to think that that's been the trade-off that these teams are making in these first couple weeks of the season now that you are going to a 17-game season.
There's just nothing better than getting off to a hot start, though. I mean, it just kind of sets the tone for the whole season, I feel like.
You just are not seeing it, though, around the league.
I agree.
mean, you go to the AFC West, even. The Raiders are 0-2. That's brutal. That is a brutal loss at home.
Oh, my God.
To that Cardinals team, which is a mess.
Yep.
The Broncos are lost.
They look terrible.
Completely lost.
I think their coaches.
Russell Wilson yesterday, I know you guys you got a lot going on. You're coming in from the stadium, all that. Russell Wilson was 14 of 31. 14 of 31, 219 in that game. Javonte Williams averages like 8 yards a carry.
They won't give him the ball.
Won't give him the ball. Won't let him be a workhorse. So if you, as we kind of have this talk a little bit about where the AFC is, where the AFC North is, there are clearly 3 locks. Well, we'll see what Buffalo does tonight. My hunch is they'll be good to go. Buffalo, Kansas City, and the Chargers are the cream. And then we'll find out this week if Miami is, because I think they get Buffalo this week if memory serves. I'm pretty sure Miami and Buffalo play this week. But Miami is off to a nice start. They humiliate the Patriots in week 1. They come from 21 down to beat Baltimore on the road in week 2. So you have to start paying a little bit of attention to them. But in terms of this big picture AFC, really uneven across the entire conference, which only exacerbates the point of what a 2-0 start would have done for us.
Yeah, and that's what hurts so much about it.
Always comes back.
But that's what hurts so much about it, because you had a chance to really put yourself in a good position right now. You're going to have, I'm guessing, that after tonight, to your point, Miami's going to be 2-0, the Bills will be 2-0, the Chiefs will be 2-0.
Kansas City.
That's it. So we would have been one of 4 teams in the conference that we think is going to be a dogfight of a conference. We had a chance to really distance ourselves, and that's the hard part, is that we had a chance to be 2 up on the Bengals, and we got over this, 1 up on the Ravens, and then if you beat the Steelers, you'd have been 2 up on 2 teams in your division coming out of that game, at worst. And at best, if the Ravens, would lose in week 3, you would have, and I don't even know, let me see who they play in week 3. They play the Patriots, who are in New England. Anything can happen, I suppose. But it's a significantly blown opportunity. Plus, it was the home opener. Plus, you had all the feel-good, the Hoffs going in. That crowd was electric. I mean, it was electric. There were so many times where I couldn't hear Jim even and I'm wearing headphones because the crowd noise coming through our mics was so loud. And it was it was a festival. It was a joyous celebration when Nick Chubb scored. People are high-fiving. People are leaving.
Oh, yeah. The stadium was about half empty when that last 2-minute cataclysm happened. There were a lot of people that didn't even see it. They probably got home and turned their TV on and maybe were watching some replays from the NFL and go, what? The Browns lost?
What do you mean?
What do you mean the Browns lost?
Inconceivable.
It's inconceivable.
Yeah, it was. From a you were talking about, we have dogs now.
We do.
That we're running out of. The boys are big fans of those. Those guys look good. The swagger statues.
Yeah, those things are cool with the red eyes and the smoke coming out. Yeah, everything
about
it was awesome. It was a great atmosphere. The presentation
You're breaking
was awesome.
guitars?
That was fun.
Yeah,
that was
Smashed
cool.
a guitar.
That was pretty sweet.
Yeah, we saw him, and he's got just the neck of the guitar coming out of his backpack. I'm like, what's going on?
Kind of looked like the Ninja Turtles, with like Donatello or Leonardo. He's got like his big size or the staff. That's what Donatello had.
Hoff, were you concerned at all about shrapnel?
I wasn't
safety goggles.
I wasn't until we did the practice run a week ago,
Okay.
and they had gloves for me and these goggles, and I'm like, my hands are made of leather. Like,
Yeah.
let's be honest, they're just a pure callus, so I don't need gloves. And they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. They were like, we had J.W. Johnson do this, and like one of the splinters came. It came from like the string, and it like whipped back and hit him in the hand to the point where like he almost needed stitches in his hand. And so they were like, you should probably just wear gloves. I'm like, all right, I'll make an exception this time and wear some gloves and wear the goggles just in case this thing explodes and there's shrapnel going everywhere.
Did you at the last second? It looked like goggles were off, and then did you remember
Yes.
at the last second?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that was one of the things they were like, all right, remember you want to count 3, 2, 1 to the crowd, and we're going to try to put it up on the video board, get them counting down for you before you smash. And then they're like, make sure you put the goggles on. But when you go out there and you're firing up the crowd, you kind of black out a little bit. I told Z this. I'm like, I want to watch the replay because I don't really remember exactly what happened because it was so emotional. You're so fired up. And all of a sudden, I almost smashed the guitar without pulling those goggles down. And right at the last second, I remembered, but I kind of played it off like it was part of building
like
the
now
tension
it's
in
business.
the moment.
Yeah.
Now it's business, like throwing the goggles on. So we were able to execute without any major injuries, which I think was the thing that made my wife the most pleased.
And she, by the way, wore the sneaks.
She wore the sneaks.
Oh, gorgeous.
I wish I had the courage to wear sneaks with my own number on it.
Humble to the
numbers, I should say, because the sneaks had the 73 and had the 10 3
right,
6
of
3.
course.
That was pretty
They're
sweet.
glorious. Listen,
she looked great.
We're ready to order our pair as soon as they become available.
To the masses.
Yeah. Or just to us.
Or just to us.
for us.
Yeah. All right. So that's where you are in the AFC North out of all of this. You have 3 1-1 football teams, and the Cincinnati Bengals, who played in the Super Bowl, are 0-2. By the way, if there's nobody would have had this 2 games into the season. Who's given up the most points in the AFC? Mr. Zagura.
The Browns.
It's in
55.
Makes no sense. Makes no sense.
55. Next closest, Jets, 54.
Yeah. Can't happen.
Can't happen.
Now, the Lions have given up like 90. So
We've
there's some
also,
bad
by the
stuff
way,
in the NFC.
if you would have told me that we would have scored, and the Bills probably will eclipse us. So we'll give the Bills. So the Dolphins have 62. The Bills will say that they get over. If they score 25 this week, they tie us. The Ravens are at 62. The Chiefs are at 71. If you would have said that after 2 games we'd have the 4th most points in the AFC, again
2-0.
2-0, like not even a question.
We're outscoring Joe Burrow by 19.
But then there's the Steelers. They have 37 points.
Well, that's the
Same as
Bengals, too.
Bengals.
Both of them.
Unreal.
Just wild what has happened. All right.
Patriots
Does
have
it-
24 in 2 games.
That's what it looks like, too.
Explosive.
On a short week, is it
what it looks
helpful?
like.
We will get into that. Take a look ahead to Pittsburgh coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Well, here for my friends at Renew Home Exteriors, offering high-performance products that are durable, long-lasting, cost and energy-saving to transform the look and efficiency of your home. Don't go in the winter with concerns about your roof with Renew Home Exteriors. Get a new roof installed in 7 to 10 days. They can do it for you guys. No money down, payments as low as $96 a month, plus receive free gutter guards with your roof purchase. Beautify your home with premium siding and roofing products at lower prices with Renew Home Exteriors. Visit renewestimate.com for more. So you got 4 days, and I don't know, Hoff, you've actually done this. I would think this would help. Flush it, and away you go.
Yeah, the short turnarounds are always really nice because you do have that ability to focus on something besides the mistakes that you made yesterday. Of course, you're going to come in today. You want to clean that up. You have to clean that up and to make sure that those things don't happen anymore. Like, that is it. We never are going to see a busted coverage, and this is how we're going to fix it. And then once you're able to go beyond that and hopefully put that to bed, you're focusing, because right now is like a Wednesday in the week. You're already thinking about focusing and installing and going out and doing a walkthrough practice for the Steelers on Thursday because it is such a short turnaround.
Can I just go back to something that you said right there is we're going to go in, we're not going to have these anymore. Like, we had them in week 1.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we said that. We're not going to do this
Yes,
again.
I'm sure.
We did. We
And
said
then
it in
we
the
did
post
it.
game. We said it in the availabilities.
Of course.
Is it going to happen again? Well, did.
It did.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Like, at some point, do you have to start even if people are quote-unquote stars? Does there have to be playing time penalties? Like, do you have to what do you do? Like, how do you actually
Well, it's not like college.
fix
You don't have an
it?
85-person roster.
I
that
know
you
this,
could
but I'm just saying, like, how do
pull.
you actually fix it? I mean, you can say it, but if you
I don't know.
are pouring milk in your lap on the reg,
Yeah.
like, I'm never going to do it again, but
Yeah.
you're sure enough,
Right.
look, oh, man, milk on my shorts.
That's right.
Again.
How many shame on yous before it's a shame on me for putting you out there again?
Well, right. And that's the thing. And
It's not always the same dude in this instance.
No,
but yeah.
no. It's unfortunately it's spread across.
Spread
It's
across.
spread across a great many dudes. But it's got to be so hard because when you were a player, and we went through and all the things that he did to prepare for each play and to prepare for each game. I don't, just knowing you the way that I do and the way that we do, I don't think you would ever have done something like this multiple times, or you wouldn't have allowed it. It wouldn't
that's
have
why
happened.
He's getting a gold jacket next
I
summer.
know.
That's the difference, though. The margin is this thin in this league.
Right.
You're not allowed a milk spill.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
When the margin is that thin, and the margin is the difference in the game, because you can't allow those type of busts to happen. You have to build in fail-safes that are just as serious as what happens if you don't have those and those bad things happen to you, right? So I think of it like an airline pilot, or maybe like a trauma surgeon. They have all these steps that go together in a process to make sure that it can't happen, right? Because we're parlaying all these things to make sure that that very, very rare thing doesn't happen, because it's easily fixable. If you have a checklist every time you get to the line of scrimmage, and that's what I built for myself, was in these situations, how do I make sure that there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 step process that I'm always going through that makes sure that even if steps 1 and 2 fail, I have step 3, 4, 5, 6 that are backing it up to make sure that, hey, maybe there was a miscommunication, but I saw the hand signal, they gave me the hand signal back, so now it's indisputable what we need to do in this situation. There's no way you can allow it to happen, because one screw up in this situation is like crashing the airplane, and you can't allow the airplane to crash. So there's always multiple steps and layers of communication that happen so it doesn't happen.
Is that something that is player driven? Is that individual driven? Or is that something like coaches put processes in place?
Well, I think
for
the
people?
coaches are going to put process, or
I think they have,
processes in
yes.
place. Like we saw it, we heard the communication is verbal, and it's a hand signal, and it's a two-way street, and maybe it needs to go beyond that, but I'm sure they already have those built in place. And hopefully in the position groups, to your point about my own personal process, they're helping them build the personal process that goes through the mind of every player when they're lining up in those situations.
As an offensive lineman, I would imagine this did not occur as much as what has happened kind of in the aftermath of this game. And what I mean by that is, if an offensive line misses a block, I don't know that people are ever like, if the lineman guy's supposed to go right and he goes left and you get a free runner and hit the quarterback sack, nobody's saying like fire Bill Callahan.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it feels to me like everybody's immediately on Joe Woods. And I understand they want to blame somebody, but sometimes it could be just as simple as somebody.
Because you can't fire a player.
Well, you can't fire them, and you don't necessarily need to fire anybody.
No, but it's you have to point the anger at somebody, anybody.
For sure, but
that's why it's happening. Yeah. It's not right, but that's how it happens.
I agree. It's not right, and I don't think that Joe Woods is responsible for busted coverages. Like, that's on the guys.
But it's not. We've spent a lot of time. It's 6 other things too.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? Like
yes.
the coverages have happened in back-to-back games, but it's a lot that had to happen.
Yes.
And the special team stuff. Go back to the very first segment of the show, and we were talking about at the start of this season, if you're going to get to 5-6, 6-5, whatever, at the time Deshaun Watson comes back, the defense had to be extraordinary. Mm-hmm. We thought that it would be. The special teams had to be extraordinary. We believed that they would be. I mean, heck, at the start of camp, we had Jakeem Grant.
That's a huge loss, by the way.
Yeah, it's felt.
Ford's been great. Felt in. Put the ball on the ground again, and I think we need a new punt returner. I mean, I think we're at the point where we need.
Well, and we also were kicking to Berrios, and he was getting return.
Yeah.
Like I was stunned that those weren't going out.
I said that on the broadcast.
Good for you. I'm like, what are we doing? Like,
so we had a sample of like 3 of them, and
yeah.
the one that we didn't kick to him, they started at 25. The 2 that we did kick to him, at that point, they were starting in the 30s. And I said, okay, I've seen enough.
That's enough.
First team All-Pro, led the league 30.4 yards per return. Don't need to see it anymore.
Kick to the bums.
Yeah.
Don't kick to the good guys.
Yep.
So
done.
Easy. So those 2 things had to be checked off for us to get to the point in week 12 that you want to be. And so far, they haven't been to the level that we expected. And so when you have Pittsburgh coming in here and you say, well, boy, this looks like the antidote for all that ails us.
Yep.
They really struggle to push the ball down the field. They really struggle offensively. Now, no Jadeveon Clowney's a big, big deal. Same thing that we would have said about the Jets, but the Jets are even Flacco is even more impressive down the field. But
sure,
if you let
but he was even trying against the Ravens.
Yeah, anybody could have done it against Air.
That's the problem.
In the last 2 drives.
Exactly.
So the short week's got to help, though, I would think. And the Steelers has to help.
There's no doubt, because you don't have any options but to start focusing on the Steelers, because you're getting the install today. Like, you're getting the game plan, and you're going to walk through right now against the Pittsburgh Steelers this afternoon.
I'll tell you what. If this doesn't go well Thursday, I'll see you boys next week.
You're not going to be here Friday?
Nope. Little
got tea time.
Got to work in some vacation time.
You should be golfing in this hoodie. I mean, this thing's spectacular.
It's very comfortable. Breeze, soft. It's a nice fabric.
It does look nice.
It does.
Yeah. Nice and stretchy.
Oh,
look at that. Look at that. I love doing that with fabric.
Oh,
If it does that,
it.
I'm
in.
If it doesn't do that, no chance.
Out.
That's not getting on this body.
That's
So we have a very, very short week here with Pittsburgh in here on Thursday, and hopefully it will be beneficial because there is a lot that ails. Elk & Elk Serious Lawyers, serious injuries. Call 1-800-ELK Ohio for a free case review. Elk & Elk is a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. A lot of stuff happened in the league yesterday as well. We will get to that coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Rumpke Waste and Recycling, family owned and operated. Whether you join them as a customer or as an employee, you'll become part of the family. Visit rumpke.com to learn more. Around the league yesterday, so this is the fourth time in 6 years in San Francisco where they have lost their quarterback with Kyle and that operation. Trey Lance with a broken ankle. And so they kept Garoppolo, and away we go. It's odd because when it happened, there's so many layers to this. So initially what you say is, what ran into my head is, well, thank goodness they have Garoppolo from their perspective. But also, I think they might be better immediately with Garoppolo than they were
There's
with
no
Lance,
doubt.
because he was really good. The other thing about it, guys, is like, does it now put like Lance's future in question a little bit? He's played one season of college football.
Yep.
And then one game, and then sat all of last year, and then played this. There's a lot of layers on that one.
It'll be interesting to see what happens if Garoppolo comes in and plays pretty well like he had been playing and he stays healthy.
He did.
I think the biggest issue with Garoppolo in that organization is he's just had a hard time being consistently healthy.
Yeah.
And so he's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm not saying he's a top 10 tier 1 guy, but he's clearly good enough that he can take him to the Super Bowl. And outside of a ridiculous mistake in the Super Bowl, he's a Super Bowl champion. And so I think if he goes out there and stays healthy and plays pretty well, there's going to be some serious conversations in the offseason about, A, what can we do with Trey Lance? Or do we go back to him and try to give him another season as the starter and see how much he develops?
It's wild. And by the way, for them, the best thing that could have ever happened was that they did nothing with Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, how fortunate are they?
Season's lost. If
it's
not,
over.
Right, it's done.
Over. And now I think there's a lot of guys under Truth Serum in that locker room that feel better about their season today than they did 2 days ago.
Based on what I've seen in the AFC West through 2 weeks, I put them at the top. They're right there with the Rams. They're better.
The Rams have a lot of flaws,
and they have big time flaws. The Cardinals are no good.
How did the Rams allow the Falcons to come back? Because they were smoking.
I didn't see
them.
any of that game, so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. We had the dinner thing that was an afternoon game, so I didn't see what happened on the close of that game. So I don't know. But here's the thing about this. This injury here. You talk about the improbability of Kyler and how much they were down to the Raiders, and the Raiders gave it all back at home, and they win. Kyler had a 2-point conversion scramble. Did you guys see this? 21 seconds.
I watched it. They said it was the longest 2-point conversion play in NFL history.
I didn't see that.
It was like backyard. He goes around and around and around and around and around and around and around. Then he finally gets needs some Benny Hill music.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that happened yesterday as well. Rodgers did what Rodgers was going to do, which you knew he would do, which was hammer the Bears. They did. And then you've got two good ones tonight. I do think when you think about the great teams right now in this league, it's a pretty short list. It was vitriol with Saints and Bucks. That was like, wasn't it? Was it the Steelers and the Ravens? It felt like for a while they used to fight like every time they played.
Yeah, and every game was a 3-point game for like
that's
6
what
years.
Bucks and Saints.
Okay, so walk me through what happened because I haven't seen it either. But I'm Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore.
Yeah. So Brady, they throw a ball down the sideline.
Okay.
He wants a holding on it. Okay, he wants a holding call on it. He's going to yell.
Brady does.
Okay. He's going to yell at the official.
Okay.
Okay. So as he's going to yell, Marshawn Lattimore walks by and goes like this, like, get out of here. Okay. Mike Evans, like a bullet, takes out Lattimore from the sideline.
Like tackles him, like
smokes him,
like Roy Williams on T.O. at the 50.
They had been going at each other
the
whole game. This is all on the sidelines. He gets him. Then it's a melee at that point. And they had been going at each other the whole game, like back and forth, physically pushing everything. Smokes him, and then it's a melee. They throw Evans out. I'm not sure why they threw Lattimore out.
Okay.
Based on what he did to Brady. Mm-hmm. Now you're saying, that's instigator. I mean, they were on the edge the whole game.
Yeah.
But that's the way that it went down. And I think Evans will probably be suspended, I would think.
They're saying that
when you're doing something like that that's so far outside of what's
Did
happening
he get a game
during
already,
a
Gibby?
play,
Okay, he's already been suspended again.
I think you got to
so I hadn't seen that, but he had
come down a little bit harder on those guys when it's happening way after the play's over and it's just a malicious trying to take him out type thing.
Yeah. So he had to be. That had to be it.
You know, it's interesting when I hear you describe it because I didn't see it because it was a busy day yesterday.
Sure.
But,
Oh, so
When
first it's Fournette, and then Evans comes in. So first Fournette
gives the first four. That's right.
And then Evans comes from the back, off the sideline. Oh my God,
yeah,
that was great.
The outcome is probably the worst possible outcome for you as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer if you're trying to protect Brady, because the last thing you want is a 44-year-old skinny. Now, he's like 20 pounds less than he was, it seems like, last year. Skinny quarterback at the bottom of a pile in a melee when guys are throwing fisticuffs and choking each other out. So in that case, maybe you should have just let it go and try to get after him on the next play, because in the end, you probably did more harm for your team, no doubt, than if you would have just tried to take it on in the next opportunity you get between the whistles.
They play the Packers this week.
Tampa
Bay does.
Without Evans.
Without Evans, yeah. And Green Bay can run it. Now, the Bears were a little frisky, but with those two backs, they could run it a little bit.
I got to tell you, so I did see some highlights of this game. Just help me understand how you can throw 11 passes in an NFL game.
This is Fields?
Yeah, he was 7 of 11 for 70 yards and an interception. They were down 24-7 at the half. So how do you throw 11 passes?
Well, they only had 38 plays. So if you think about the Green Bay Packers ran it 38 times. They really didn't have the ball.
No.
I mean, I don't know what the time of possession is. I bailed on this game to watch House of Dragon, so I'll be honest with you.
Ooh, how was that last night?
I wasn't waiting all day for Sunday night.
We didn't see
it.
How was it last night?
I mean, it was – I just feel like they have a whole series that – a whole first season could have been done in these first 5 episodes, because we're now aging people. So those characters are going to be gone.
It just happened?
No, it'll happen next week.
Okay.
But, I mean, that could have been the whole season.
Time possession, 37-15 to 22-45 in that game. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I mean, they were 1 of 7 on third down, the Bears were. The Packers just ran it at will.
Yeah.
You know, if they're going to run it that way, if they can run it, and those young receivers come along with Jones and Dillon running it, that's going to – I mean, I feel good about them coming out of the NFC. They look – I know they got drilled week 1, but they got drilled 1 last week. People in Wisconsin, are they like understanding that this is what happens with them?
They're cool with the rhythm right now. They understand that the Packers are going to get smoked week 1. Everyone's going to panic. Rodgers is going to say, relax, patience, whatever.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to go, okay, he got it. And then they're going to come back and go on a roll.
You see the Bears are just salivating in Wisconsin. The Bears come to town. Like, that's a gimme.
A gimme.
Yeah.
They've owned them, just like
they have.
Rodgers told them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so there was some wild stuff that happened yesterday in the league. The first touchdown reception in the Cowboys-Bengals game was from Noah Brown.
Yeah.
Who was a former player
Buckeye.
at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Who came out early and nobody wanted him to. He caught the first touchdown. Jamar Chase, not Higgins, got one late. The crazy thing there was it was much for the Bengals. It was the same script as they did last week, where they got down big early, couldn't get going in the first half to save their lives, and then when they needed a score, Burrow went and got him a score. And they went down the field. They had a big, long drive, and they went down the field and scored. He hit T. Higgins for the touchdown, and you felt like, well, okay, we'll see overtime and away that we go. And then they couldn't stop Cooper Rush and the Cowboys offense from scoring. The most ridiculous stat line of yesterday, by far, though, it's not close, is Miami. That's the one. So
wild.
If you missed that game, and likely you did because it was on when ours was going on, and the collapse was, while it was a longer collapse, it was equally stunning that Baltimore lost this way, because Baltimore was pretty dang efficient in this game. Lamar Jackson was unbelievable in this game.
Yeah, 318 and 3 passing,
How many misses?
21 of 29, 9 runs for 119 yards, including a 79-yard touchdown, and they lost.
They lost. And in this game, Tua looked like he was playing like Louisiana Monroe at Alabama. He has 6 touchdowns, 459?
469, and he threw 2 picks as well.
Early, yeah. And like I said, they had 2 receivers with over 10 catches each, over 150 yards each, and over 2 touchdowns each, with Waddle and Tyreek Hill. And they play each other this week.
Waddle got 19 targets. Waddle and Tyreek Hill both had more targets in this game than the Bears threw passes.
Yeah, true.
It's insane.
Yeah.
They had as many catches as the Bears threw passes. Both of them. In the same game, on the same team.
Yep. Right. Mike Gesicki also hit probably the worst gritty we've ever seen.
Gesicki. Love it.
God bless him, but it was not a good one. Baltimore was really good offensively, though.
But how are they so
really
bad
dynamic.
defensive? They were good against the Jets.
I don't know. It was crazy. So as this was happening, this is in the corner of my eye as I was watching us. I mean, our game had a lot of tension to it until the Nick Chubb touchdown. Then you're like, okay, we can relax.
Yeah.
You're safe. Not at all. You mentioned earlier, Hoff, about the way that NFL teams are handling a 17-game schedule and the way they handle the preseason. If you were running an operation, how would you handle it?
So I was from the era that you played in the preseason and that you used those reps and they were valuable to be able to get on the same page, to get reps under your belt, to get in shape. I'm not saying that's the right way to do it, but if it was my team, that's probably how I would do it. Splitting up the reps a little bit in the preseason, but put the guys out there. Like, I'm not sure, and maybe the statistical analysis would bear a different answer, but I don't really know if practicing over playing a game exposes you to any less amount of risk. So, like, if you're doing the joint practices like the Browns did versus the Eagles, does going out there for a day mean less risk chance than going out and playing him in the preseason game and playing a couple quarters? I don't know.
That's interesting. I wonder why we did. Why did we?
I mean, a lot of teams clearly have looked at the analysis and
it.
said that they would rather play in the joint practices than put
there's
them
no
out there.
tackling to the ground. There's no people on the ground rolling into legs.
And I understand that you can set up your situations so they're a little bit more controlled, and you probably get a lot better work because you can decide, like, hey, if we're playing 35 plays in practice against the Eagles, I know I'm going to get 35 situations that are going to make us better. Whereas if you play a half in a game, you might only get 5 or 6 plays that actually you felt like were productive, and you put your team at a significant risk of going out there and getting injured in a preseason game. But I don't know. I'm not sure that there's any one right answer. And the great thing about being in media is whatever they do, if it doesn't work, you can say they should have done the opposite.
Of course.
Because I don't know how John Harbaugh does it, but I'm pretty sure he plays his guys a bunch in the preseason, doesn't he?
Not a bunch.
I don't think.
Well,
Lamar
at least more than
played.
other teams. Obviously, Lamar is not going to do it. But
he's not doing the Rams thing where you play none.
Nobody. Right.
You know,
but
so
I mean, I think you're seeing teams on both sides of the spectrum, guys that play some players in the preseason, teams that don't play some guys in the preseason, and you run into some of the same problems, I think. So it's not like it's clear what way is the right way to do it.
All right.
Well, I can tell you this. Mike Tomlin said it after the last preseason game for the Steelers when Watt got dinged up and a couple guys, and the Pittsburgh media was all up in his grill in the post-game presser, and he said, to box, you have to spar.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to go out and do something.
Yeah. And Dan Campbell has that philosophy, obviously, in Detroit, where
maybe a little extreme.
They're
1-1. 1-1.
Yeah,
they put up 30 points back to back.
A lot of points
for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, they are. We actually have a lot still to get to. There is so much more to come, including 2 games tonight.
Oh, baby.
As the NFL trots this out for the first time, the staggered start on Monday Night Football. So we will get to that. Plus, the most stupefying thing that I've ever seen in a home team do to an opposing team before a game. Truly. We'll get to that coming up next. Cleveland Browns Daily 850.
What a tease.
had on the show tonight. Before we get to the scores, this was Saturday night. Let's see. This is Saturday night in College Station, Texas. So Texas A&M is playing Miami. This is the visiting team sidelines.
Yeah, the horses are like crapping everywhere.
I don't know if the Hoff had seen this. That's the Miami sideline.
So, like, is that on purpose?
They gave them a bunch of X-Lax before they walked out there.
It's insane.
So it's 50 horses mounted.
Yep.
Right? These guys, they're I don't know what Texas A&M has. They have some sort of, I think they have a lot of ROTC stuff, so they have a core there.
Yep.
And so they're all on horseback. They line up on the Miami sidelines, 50 horses who all defecate all over the sideline.
Yeah.
Now, they do shovel it out, but as someone who has shoveled a lot of that in his life, you can shovel it, but the smell stays.
Oh, sure.
And there's still residue.
For sure there's residue.
Yeah.
They're not
There's still
washing.
residue.
They get a lot of residue in the bottom of their cleats,
Yeah.
and their gloves.
You can clean all the stalls you want. That stays.
Shouldn't there be
feel
like
sanitary?
Yeah, some type of required bag. Like, you go to the circus and there's like a bag back there. I'm not a horse guy, but maybe, Bo, you can explain.
Can you imagine like a puppy bag?
Yeah, like a little puppy bag, like diapers. Shouldn't the horses be wearing diapers?
It's about the best
You can't allow your horses to poop on your opponent's
So
sideline
disrespectful.
in that much volume, too.
So
Wow.
disrespectful.
Was that like one or two?
To just parade
There's a
them
herd
out
of
there.
them.
There was 50 of them. It's crazy. All right. So this is new. We're first time that anyone's done this. We have 2 Monday Night Football games staggered. So typically in the old days, one would go at 6, one would go at 9:30. 2 games in their completion. Instead, what ESPN is doing is they're going to do 2 games. So they're going to have a game start at 7.
Love it.
And then one at 8:30ish, something like that.
No, you have it
the
exactly
stagger.
right.
And what they're going to do is they're saying one of these is on ESPN, one's on ABC. We're actually going to show both games at once on a couple of the channels on ABC or ESPN, and we're saying it doesn't really matter which one you watch because we have all of it. And so what they're going to do is they're going to count all of it from a viewer standpoint.
And there's no Manning cast.
No Manning. I think
off.
too complicated with the split.
Yeah.
It's a heck of an idea. Where we
I
used
like
to
it.
just be worried about it's going to be great for consumer.
2 minutes.
We used to be just worried about one game getting all the ratings. They're saying we'll take all the ratings, and it doesn't matter where they are.
7:15 and 8:30.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Who's
Two good games
doing the
here.
call there?
My guess is Aikman and Buck do the Philly game.
Yeah, they're gonna be on ABC.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
And then
is the other one gonna be like
Maybe the
Levy
college
or
football
Lobs-
is that a
Levy- Steve
Corso
Levy?
or not a Corso? Is that
I would
a
think it's
Herbie?
Levy,
Orlovsky
Orlovsky,
and
and
Riddick.
Riddick
Yeah.
on the ESPN game,
Yep.
and then they will put the Aikman and Buck on the late game. That's
Mhm.
my guess is what they would do. But they're 2 good games. I think one of them will be a good game. So we want to do the scores, Gibby?
Yeah, let's get down to it. First and foremost, Buffalo. Bills Mafia, they were doing table slams on Saturday in preparation for Monday night.
It was like us lined up to the Muni lot.
Yeah, we're still 2 days away, kids. Like it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. Buffalo, maybe those people will be in the stands by kickoff. I'm not sure. They host Tennessee.
Bills by $1 billion. I think Tennessee's no good.
I don't think they're good either, but the Bills only play nickel, which is interesting in a matchup with Derrick Henry, but still Bills ran it.
I like Titans.
I
I just feel like it's going to be a bounce back game because these 2 teams were just so far in opposite directions in week 1, and a lot of times there's a reversion to the mean.
Pull
in
it
week
back
2.
together. Yeah.
Late game, Minnesota,
30.
Philly.
I love the Vikings, but I don't like them as much outdoors at night in Philly. Eagles,
Tough environment there.
31-28.
Same. It's tricky. Just
by a beak.
Yeah. Wet
20.
The beak. Wet your beak on that one a little bit.
Bryce goes, why do you always say that? Like, it's a great
it's
phrase.
perfect.
Yeah, you want to wet your beak on something?
One
pasta
day
over
you'll
here, brother?
understand.
Yeah.
One day you'll get it.
Yeah.
Well, we live
10.
to see another day. The next level will continue coming up next. Great to see the Hoff, as always, especially on his weekend.
My pleasure.
We appreciate you listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.